2023 has truly been a big year for Hollywood in a multitude of ways. Whether it be surprisingly enormous box office numbers for unexpected films, massive bombs both literal and figurative which have marked a clear shift in the entertainment zeitgeist, or the dawn of the next IP which will likely be the newest shared universe of related media. It's clear to anyone with eyes that this has been a year of colossal changes to everything we've come to expect. However, in a year of sizable swings which has resulted in more mammoth misses than huge hits, many of us are left wishing for a palate cleanser. But as the landscape shifts on a tectonic level, who will step up to the plate and deliver the familiar yet fresh taste audiences truly need to round out such a crazy calendar chock full of cinematic disappointment? To tell you the truth, I didn't go into Godzilla Minus One with any intention of writing a review. Being an extremely passive fan of the IP, I didn't think I would be able to do it justice and was expecting just a couple of hours of mindless fun. But as I viewed the relatively low-budget film about a giant heat-breathing lizard, something dawned on me.
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
And that presence was being in a room filled with people of all ages and backgrounds who were genuinely enjoying themselves, enthralled by a well-crafted story that had sucked them in.
Suck!
Now, being such a filthy casual to the kaiju genre and not knowing it as well as some of the people who will inevitably find their way into my comments, I will preface this by apologizing in advance if I get some of the details about Godzilla's history incorrect. That being said, let's take a look, shall we? Picking up in the dying days of World War II, kamikaze pilot Koichi Shikishima lands his plane on an island designated as a repair bay for faulty equipment. At first, it seems as though he's being truthful about technical issues, but it quickly becomes evident that he has decided to go against his sworn duties in favor of staying alive. Who could have foreseen this type of reaction from conscripted soldiers? During the night, the encampment is attacked by a yet unidentified assailant, which is revealed to be none other than the creature of myth himself, Godzilla, who proceeds to slaughter everything in his path. The mechanics plead with Koichi to get to his plane and fire his weapon, which in their own words should have enough stopping power to, quote, kill anything. Going into a state of shock over what he's seeing, Koichi is unable to accomplish this task, which results in the deaths of nearly everyone on the island. Upon returning home to a devastated Tokyo, we bear witness to the horrors that the conflict has inflicted on the city and its inhabitants, many of whom are displaced and grieving. Koichi himself, struggling with severe PTSD and survivor's guilt, finds himself in the unenviable position of being a known kamikaze pilot who somehow returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Proof of his cowardice and treason. It's at this time we're introduced to Noriko Oshi, a vagrant caring for an orphan child. Koichi and Noriko quickly become an item, and along with their adoptive daughter Akiko form an extremely unconventional family, especially by traditional Japanese standards. Though a point is made that Koichi refuses to accept the title of father to Akiko. In order to provide for them, Koichi takes on a lucrative yet dangerous job clearing Tokyo Bay of sea mines left over from the war. All seems to be going swimmingly until his crew is tasked with stopping Godzilla's approach to Japan. An obligation right out of Koichi's nightmares. Oh, and did I mention that Godzilla is now 4 times the size due to American nuclear testing? And those same Americans refuse to help because of tensions with Russia?
Americans.
What ensues is the slowest yet greatest chase sequence you'll ever see on film, as a small commercial watercraft attempts to distract and outrun an enormous atomic iguana. After several more failed attempts to thwart their adversarial amphibian, which only solidify the fact that conventional weapons are useless, Tokyo falls victim to an attack which decimates the district of Ginza, leaving the Japanese citizens to engineer possibly the most ingenious attempt to finish their reptilian rival once and for all. In the day and age of subversion of expectations and refusal to let people feel anything other than Zoloft-induced artificial happiness, it was good to see a film which allowed the audience to experience real emotion. Tension, sorrow, fear, doubt. Things that many modern filmmakers either cannot or will not allow their audience to feel, which are essential for the climax of any film to work, and are often replaced with jokes at inappropriate times. That isn't to say that there aren't moments of levity within the script, but they're placed well to lighten the tension at the proper moments. The plot doesn't deviate too much from the Godzilla films of old, but where it thrives is in its character work and themes. At its core, this is a very character-driven drama, albeit one wrapped in the shell of a kaiju disaster flick. When one hears the name Godzilla, it often invokes thoughts of a man in a low-budget rubber costume kicking over model buildings. If you were to list off all the terms that come to mind, I'm sure the words disgrace, regret, and trauma would be nowhere on the list. However, However, many of the key aspects of the film go outside the norm of what people might expect. Themes like growing as a person through adversity and finding love in less than ideal situations are present from the earliest points of the script, as is the idea of not being able to accept responsibilities which have been thrust upon you. For me, the hardest hitting theme by far was the idea of what it means to be a family. Many films have tried to tackle this topic, but few ever achieve their goal. If you told me that the central driving force of a Godzilla movie was going to be two young displaced Japanese 20-somethings raising an adopted child in war-torn Tokyo, I'd have laughed in your face.
You serious?
But not only is it a theme in this film, it is the theme. Understanding what matters in your life and doing what needs to be done to preserve it regardless of how it got there in the first place. And realizing that family is more than just an obligation to blood.
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you would sleep with?
John Stamos.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yup!
The words Godzilla and character-driven have never historically been placed in the same paragraph, let alone the same sentence. But with Minus One, we can scrap that precedent. Through and through, the film is a masterfully crafted, thought-provoking narrative, which tackles difficult concepts such as family, honor, and duty.
Duty?
It's not that kind of duty.
But writing is just one piece of the puzzle. To accurately convey the emotion behind these abstract concepts, you need actors capable of bringing them to life on screen, which is exactly what we get. For the most part, the film centers around the relationship between two characters, Koichi Shikeshima and Noriko Oshii, played by Ryanazuki Kamiki, and this lady who, after 27 consecutive failed attempts to pronounce her name, I decided to just put on the screen. Two actors who, if someone was to offer me $1 million to name a single film they were in, I'd likely owe them money for the stupidity of my answer. I don't know, Squid Game? I know it's Korean, but that's all I got, guys. I'm sorry. That said, they both do an amazing job at fostering suspension of disbelief in this generally unbelievable setting. Ryanazuki's performance is especially powerful, as he's tasked with not only portraying a character dealing with the insanity of a 200-foot-tall spiked gecko, but also complex character flaws such as PTSD, survivor's guilt, and the failure to accept responsibility. His reactions always come off as raw and real in such a way that viewers can't help but ride the emotional roller coaster with him. So impressive is his performance that I truly believe it's worthy of a Best Actor at the Japan Academy Film Prize in 2024, and even a nod on the American Awards circuit. Though honestly, that really doesn't mean anything anymore. In the interest of fairness, it's best to explain the rest of the cast as a whole, rather than attempt to nitpick among the remaining ensemble. Plus, out of respect, I really don't want to butcher anybody else's name. For the most part, every actor gives their role maximum effort regardless of the substantiality. Not a single person can be seen phoning it in or showing less than full commitment. In an era when Western actors' egos are bigger than ever, it's a breath of fresh air to see people who genuinely apply their craft to projects they are clearly passionate about, and not just the next cash grab or long-term meal ticket that comes along.
Boom, cut the check!
Considering this film was made on a mere $15 million budget, it truly looks fantastic. Sure, there are moments where the funding is visibly stretched thin, and the effects for Godzilla himself are a bit underwhelming at times, but this is completely forgivable considering the restrictions they were working within. Hell, even at its worst moments, the film still looks better than most of Disney's $250 million productions. Seeing as how the film is set in post-war Japan in the 1940s, the crew did an amazing job of capturing the aesthetic of the era. Godzilla himself returns to the classic look we all remember from decades past, but with just enough visual updates to differentiate him from the previous iterations, which gives us a unique blend of homage and innovation. And honestly, of all the versions I've ever seen, this one might have the most epic take on the iconic atomic breath. If I had to choose an aspect of the production which was the unsung hero, without a doubt it would be the score. Using music which runs the gamut from somber to over the top, the tone set the theme of the moment perfectly from start to finish. There's an old adage that the score itself should be considered a character within the film, one which adds tension or triumph to a scene when needed. A notion that has long since been lost to time in the modern boilerplate style of Hollywood movie making. But here that couldn't be further from the truth. No matter the scene, the music accompaniment is curated to near perfection, all the way down to the iconic theme that we have all heard 1,000 times before. It's pretty rare nowadays to find a film with perfect pacing. I mean, I literally have a stock clip of myself talking about it because it comes up so often.
The pacing of this film is terrible, and it could have been cut down by 20 to 30 minutes.
It's fairly common for scenes to overstay their welcome, leaving the audience to feel like their time is being wasted by individuals who clearly have no idea how to storyboard. This is another aspect where Minus One shines. You never get a sense of being bogged down with pointless side plots that go nowhere, or conflicts that are resolved too easily simply to get them over with. In the few instances where you might feel things are slowing down a bit too much, Godzilla himself appears to make sure that those feelings are obliterated. There's nearly zero wasted space within the script, as small seeds of information planted early in the film blossom into full-blown arcs. For any aspiring filmmaker out there, I would say that this script is a fine example of how it's done in terms of efficiency and time management. Perhaps the best way I can sum up how great this film truly is and why you should go see it, is to regale you with a story which occurred during my viewing. Approximately an hour and a half into the film, something happened to me that has never happened in the 3+ decades of my cinema-going life.
You want a job?
Yeah. Why?
No, not that. The power went out, the emergency lights came on, and the film stopped literally right before the climax.
Forget it.
No, don't forget it. Don't forget it. Don't.
Now, had this been an underwhelming Marvel film or something of that nature, odds are at least a few individuals would have headed for the ticket booth for a refund, though that actually would require that people bought tickets to the most recent Marvel film. But here that did not occur. Everyone sat tight, waiting patiently for the film to be brought back. For nearly 20 minutes, not so much as a person got up to use the restroom or even thought to themselves, maybe we should go see if there's genuinely a reason to evacuate. I'm not sure what that says about the collective intelligence of those in the cinema, myself included, but it speaks volumes in terms of the quality of the film. And if that's not enough to convince you to see this perfect amalgamation of Eastern and Western cinema, I'm not so sure anything I could possibly say would do the trick.